You think you've got a sense of the Grand Canyon from photos or maps, and then you get there and realize none of that really prepares you for it. Because the way it looks online and the way it feels in person are two very different things. And most people show up without really understanding how the park actually works. So let's fix that before you go. Hey everyone, I'm Katie Staples, the host of the Great Escape podcast, and this is the start of our Grand Canyon mini series. I've actually experienced this place in two completely different ways. One as a kid on a mule ride down into the canyon, and later in an RV with my dog exploring the South Rim. And both trips have taught me the same thing. The Grand Canyon is not hard to visit, it's just easy to misunderstand. So let's walk through it the way you'll actually experience it. When people say Grand Canyon, they usually mean one of two places, either the South Rim or the North Rim. Most first time visitors go to the South Rim, which is the most accessible, it's the most developed, and it's open year round. The North Rim is also in Arizona, yet it's a higher elevation, it's quieter, more remote, and it's only open seasonally. Now, here's what throws people off. You can't just drive across the Grand Canyon from one rim to the other. If you're on the South Rim and you want to get to the North Rim, you're not crossing it, you're driving around it. That drive takes hours because the canyon itself is in the way. So, from the very beginning, when you visit Grand Canyon National Park, you're not visiting the park so much as you're choosing which side of the canyon you're actually going to experience. And that choice changes everything about your trip. The Grand Canyon is about 277 miles long, yet that number really doesn't help you understand it. What matters is this. When you stand at the rim, you are looking across something so wide that viewpoints feel closer together than they actually are. You'll see a trail across the canyon and assume it's a short walk. It is not. And you'll drive between overlooks thinking they're connected and then realize they're separated by miles of winding park roads. The canyon doesn't feel big in a dramatic way. It feels big in a slow, unfolding way that you only understand after spending time inside it. Once you arrive at the South Rim, your experience changes again. You don't just drive wherever you want all day. A lot of the park runs on a free shuttle system. There are different routes that connect viewpoints, trailheads, and visitor areas along the rim. And in some areas, especially the popular scenic roads, you can't even drive your own car during peak seasons. You park once and then you move through the park using shuttles. Here's what that actually means in practice. If you understand the system, your day becomes easy. You park near a hub, hop on a shuttle, and move between stops without worrying about parking at every viewpoint you'd like to see. If you don't understand the shuttle system, you can end up wasting a lot of time circling lots or backtracking. The key is simple. Think of the Grand Canyon National Park shuttle as part of the experience, not an inconvenience. And the earlier in the day you start, the smoother everything feels, because mid-morning onward is when it gets very busy. To enter Grand Canyon National Park, you don't need special reservations for most visits. You will, however, need a National Park entry pass, which you can buy at the gate or online ahead of time. I definitely recommend getting the annual America the Beautiful Pass for $80, and it covers you for all the national parks you'd like to see in the next 12 months. Now, some of the experiences there do require planning ahead of time, though. Things like overnight hiking below the rim, backcountry camping, river rafting trips, etc. Yet, for a first visit focused on viewpoints and day hiking, you can enter and explore without permits. The Grand Canyon changes depending on when you visit. Peak season is spring through fall, especially summer. That's when crowds are highest and the park feels most active. Winter is quieter, colder, and sometimes covered in snow at the rim. And yes, it is still absolutely worth visiting in winter. The experience just shifts. There's fewer people, colder air, and a more quiet version of the canyon. What most people miss is this. It is not just about the season you choose, it's about how much time you give yourself once you're there. A rushed visit feels completely different than a slow one. Where you stay shapes your entire trip. Inside the park, you have lodges and campgrounds along the South Rim. This is the most convenient option for sunrise, sunset, and early access, yet it books out far in advance. Outside the park, most people stay in Tucson, which is the closest gateway town, Williams, which is a road trip style base, or Flagstaff, which is a full city with more amenities. Each option changes your experience. Inside the park feels immersive and immediate. Outside the park gives you flexibility, yet more driving time to get in. And this is one of those decisions people underestimate early in planning. If you're traveling with kids, this is a very accessible national park as long as you pace your day. There are viewpoints, paved paths, and shuttle stops that make it easy to explore without long hikes. If you're bringing dogs, this is where planning matters. Dogs are allowed on rim areas and some paved trails, yet they are not allowed below the rim on most hiking trails. And you cannot just leave your dog in a car while you hike. Most pet travel here is rim based only. Some visitors use nearby kennel options if they want to do longer hikes into the canyon. Okay, so what do people actually do once they arrive there? The experience usually looks a little something like this. You start at the rim, walk a section of the rim trail, and stop at multiple viewpoints. That alone can take hours if you do it slowly. Then many people will hike a short distance below the rim, just enough to feel the canyon change around them. And that's the moment most visitors remember, because you don't have to be a serious hiker to experience this place. Yet your experience completely changes depending on how far you go. There's 4 levels of hikes here. You have the Rim Trail, which is easy and accessible. You have the Bright Angel Trail, which has a more moderate descent. Then there's the South Kaibab Trail, which is steeper and has more exposed views. And then there's deeper canyon hikes for some advanced visitors. In the hiking episode later in this series, we'll break down exactly what each one of these feels like. Now, one thing people don't expect at the Grand Canyon is how much wildlife you actually see, especially near the rim and campgrounds. You'll commonly see some elk, mule deer, squirrels, and sometimes bighorn sheep. And in my own visits, I've had elk close to trails and even a coyote near my campground. One morning, I woke up, let Molly out of the RV so that she could go potty, and she just kind of stopped right there and froze a couple feet from the RV door. Now, my view was blocked by the RV door as I kind of just stood on the step, and I had no idea what she was staring at. Well, when I got her back inside and looked out the window, there was a coyote that had been standing about 25 feet away just watching her. Now, I wasn't overly scared. It looked like it was just by itself, and it looked like it was actually a little smaller than her. However, it definitely kept yipping to tell the rest of its troop that there was something here worth coming to check out, and then it kind of just walked away staring at us, circling around our campsite. So needless to say, we packed everything right up and then got out of there. What surprises most people is that this isn't just a scenic overlook environment. You're in a living ecosystem, even though it's a desert, and you feel that more the longer that you stay. If you only take one thing from this episode, it's this. Don't just show up at Grand Canyon National Park, look over the edge real quick, and then leave. What you should not miss is walking at least part of the rim trail, watching sunrise or sunset if you can, and hiking even a short distance below the rim. That last one changes everything. It turns the canyon from something you look at into something you're inside. Just keep in mind that obviously, however far you hike down, that's how far you get to hike back up. Never deplete more than half of your water supply at one time. And if you think it was difficult to walk down and into the canyon, you got another thing coming for the climb up. So just keep your energy and all of your rations in mind. So this is all your foundation. The Grand Canyon is not complicated once you understand how it works. It's just layered. And now that you have that foundation, the next episode gets into something most people don't expect. Why does everyone keep getting rescued at the Grand Canyon? And what actually causes it? And after all that, we'll go deeper into what it really feels like hiking into the canyon itself. So if you're planning a trip, watch that episode next. And if you want the full picture, go ahead and binge the playlist, because once you understand this place, you'll never plan it the same way again. I'll see you in the next episode.